So, very welcome to this third day in the Innovation Demo Week. This third day is focusing on the smart and connected user. So my name is Erik Jägvall, and I will be hosting this panel discussion. So today, this is maybe this is a quite a normal view to you in bigger areas and big cities. Out on the street today, we have over 1.1 billion cars. And with a user perspective, how do you navigate in the landscape of mobility? So to help us understand this, we have this excellent setup of three different profiles. David Green from Lynk Co, Chief Digital Officer, born digital and digital native. Avril Ma, you have touched down on CEVT a little bit, and now you're heading as a General Manager for CaoCao Mobility in Paris. And Faye Shmuelevitz from Waze, VP for Community and Operations. So very welcome, everyone. And let's do like this. So to help us understand this, what is a smart user, a smart and connected user, according to you? How do you play it smart in big cities with the aspect of mobility? David, would you like to start elaborating?
Yeah, I'm going to be controversial and say I don't think the users need to be smart. We need to be smart and understand what the users want. As much as possible, mobility should be seamless. You see, it's a huge benefit to people to be able to move around, to meet face to face. You remember that in the old days when we used to say hello to people, but also to get in and out of offices and do shopping and visit museums and zoos and so on. It's the engine of the world, mobility, but users just want to make it as easy as possible. So as much as possible, travel from A to B without having to go via C, D, E, and F. And I think we're on the edge of innovation, and certainly some things have started. Avril will talk about some of them, I expect, that make that A to B journey much easier using smart technology.
Fesh, what's your take on it?
So I think I do agree that, you know, a lot of the stuff has to be done in the background, that the systems themselves will have a lot of knowledge and personalization on the user. But I do think that, you know, when it comes to what I call at least a smart user is one that is aware of the options and various capabilities of the, I would say, the mobility as a service, and takes into consideration things like environmental needs and wants and his own kind of preferences. And I think that the smart maybe comes from the smart mobile phones, but I think that the users today are faced with so much data, so many options, so many technologies, that the smart user is the one that is able to set and set up these technologies and these options to the best of his needs.
Yeah,
And
I'm not so convinced, yeah, that we have to worry about the smart users. You're right, the really clever ones know how to trick the system. I tend to worry about the sort of majority, and the ones like me, so who are fundamentally, let's call it lazy. It's maybe not fair on myself, but you know, whatever's easy is the path of least resistance we follow. I can remember the first time I used Uber. It was after a mobility conference. They were fairly new in London, and yeah, what is it? It's just a taxi, isn't it? And fundamentally, it is. It's just a taxi, but it's easier, you know. You, instead of having to stand in the street in the rain waving, hoping someone will stop, you press a button, you know it's coming, you know when it arrives, you get in, you don't have to talk to the driver, tell them where you're going, you don't have to interact, you don't have to stop off at a cash point if you've got money in the wrong currency, you get to your destination and you print an invoice. It's just that little bit of easier that makes the digital journey so appealing to consumers. And then did I ever get in a black cab again? Never since, I'm ashamed to say.
So a little bit approaching the mobility as a service, if we call it that. Avril, what do you think is easy, the big aspect of choosing these kind of services?
Yeah, I think basically, yes, mobility as service, which is focused on, make people's life is convenient and easy. I agree for that. But meanwhile, I think also we need really provide, apart from basic needs, we need really to get some additional added value for the customer. So that is really is down to us, which is whether we can provide, the technology and then the connected car and what sort of service we can provide to the user. So user is always there, right? That is in the public, that is in there. But how we can satisfy our user, how we can capture them and continue maintain with us, that is key to everybody. So I think easy, convenient, and comfortable and safety is another main reason as well, right? And also we also focus on the green because we need to think about sustainability for the future, right? So we need to continue to grow. So how can we to think about the short term, long term? Yeah, that's focus, which is different as well. But I think we all, CEVT, especially CEVT colleague here, so we're all working for the innovation part, right? So we think about what is the future. We're developing car for the future. So what is really and the customer needs? Now we have quite a lot of very different marketing research regarding what's really end user wanted. But main thing I think about innovation, which is really even the customer themselves, they don't know what they need. But for us, for the people as engineer for the team, so we can find out, we can define and digging out to see, wow, that is really customer need in the future, but they didn't realize at the moment. So I call this is really innovation. So I think that is a smart way.
How do you catch that, the things that they didn't know they wanted?
So I think that is really a challenging, but that is where we have to explore and discovery, right? Yeah.
Fish, what's your take on like providing things that the user didn't know they wanted?
So it's a bit of a challenge. I mean, I think today, at least the way I see it, with seeing a lot of regulatory activity and a lot of pushback from users where, in a lot of cases they're saying, oh, I'm the product, etc. I think this is something that we really need to kind of tread carefully. So obviously we want to dazzle and give good surprises to the users. The question is when sometimes we, kind of do creepy things and surprise them to the bad. So I think that this kind of communication with the user and understanding the user and explaining to the user why the system or why we are doing what we're doing is something that builds trust, and I think that trust and safety is something that's very important for these services to succeed. And so it's a challenge. On the one hand, you want the system to work and you don't want to ask too much question, and I do agree about the mass market. On the other hand, when it comes to the mass market, there are mass decisions that you take, which in some cases, alienate the user. So it's tricky. This is why, the more kind of the user understands the system and is able to tailor it to its need, there are less surprises. And if there are surprises, they are for the good.
Mm. And it comes a little bit to like the interactivity, knowing your customer. I guess you need to interact constantly to follow your future and current customer. How do you, like, from automotive OEM perspective, how do you do that, David?
As you may know, Lynk Co has taken a very different direction in our business model, and deliberately has focused on direct consumer interaction, dealing directly with our customers. And this is a great opportunity right from the beginning. It's mobility, it's not buying a car. OEMs can easily forget that after the customer walks out of a showroom and the deal is done and the money is cash, that customer may be in that same vehicle for 10 years. And there's a sort of an interaction throughout that time that is incredibly rich. And we see with the technology that we all use every day, that we are communicating with lots of other people. I mean, let's look at Waze. It's built on that community communication, providing data, insight. And as long as it's done responsibly and in the right way, and we can have that discussion about data privacy, but we all have run keepers and we all use maps and we all use Waze. That level of interaction enables smart companies to adapt what they do to better fulfill the consumer needs. And if you're not a company, if you're a company with access to data that's not adapting yourself continuously to the consumer, then you won't be that company for too much longer.
I guess this is your alley really much, Face, and what you're doing constantly, measuring what the customer needs and wants, and and try out a little bit as well. I realized that I used Waze a time ago, and I could today I want to be the Batmobile, just for fun. So I guess you're using this interactivity with the user live and try what's working and not, I guess.
Indeed, I mean we're trying to provide options that are both, again, valuable, and I think value is definitely our main theme. So we have to give the value to the driver. This is why we focus on the drivers. But there's also the gamifications. We are going in other direction. For example, the Waze carpool, where we're trying to actually reduce the number of cars on the road, because this is the way that we see today, more or less perhaps the only way to fight the amount of traffic jams. And so we have also riders today, which is kind of like a new environment for us. But at the end of the day, yes, the idea is to provide the value and try to, again, tailor it as much as possible to the needs, to the mobility needs of the users, based on the information they are willing to share.
Avril, as mobility solution, how do you see? Do you see a constant this is what the customer wants and needs, or do you try out with them, testing new things, or how is your approach?
Yeah, because for our app, CaoCao Overseas app, so it's based on the CaoCao China version, but development like a new version, which is completely new functionality and then the customer needs. We did quite a lot of marketing research before we are developing the app. But basically, there's a different requirement between China and Europe, right? So how we can to make sure that those apps So current CaoCao app, which is localized. So that is another key as well. So we're working on the continue, because we launched this year, but we continue really examine and also then monitor our app. So we constantly get feedback from our customer and our driver as well, because we have two apps, different end. One is driver end, another one which is customer end, right? So from the driver perspective, which is viewing, which is how's the better usage in the UX, right? So that sort of things. Of course, for the customer, of course, that's UX, that's user experience as well. But from experience, basically for the customer, they from the point they download the app and to the point they place the order and complete their first ride and get payment, right? So that's a whole journey. So we call that is user experience, right? So, and also it's the same thing with the driver experience. So we really focus on those two experiences constantly, really to talk to the drivers and have a lot of panels and also, our workshop and then the customer as well. So we did, massive about survey, but we understand we need to continue to improve. So especially going now, so it's because the external market is really challenging and it's really quiet for the mobility services for everybody. So we focus on the product planning and also the continued improvement. So that's a good time to do so. But that's important how we can listen to the customer. What's their need? What's their feedback? And our app changing quite a lot. Think about the past almost 1 year. So our R&D team in China and in Paris, so they always have huge of the what we call the product is P0. So always P0. So it's quite a lot of things that you have to down now quickly. The team here is, they have the full drive to do so. So it seems like we need more, team members to join us, and also how we can, to make sure that our customer satisfaction really high. But at the moment, I think about 50% our customer, which is recommended by word of mouth. So that's also approved. So we did good job on that, but and continue. So we need to have different dimension to continue to work out and get the customer to stay, the loyalty customer, and also acquire new customer as well.
So, and looking at the market today and continuous improvement and measuring, knowing the customer we have, if we take a little bit step into the future and looking into, we all know that the world can be disrupted, for example, by the pandemic ongoing at the moment, disrupting all our business, I guess.
Yeah.
But what do you believe when introducing autonomous electrical, what will happen to the mobility as we know it today? From how does the user being impacted, or what opportunities opens up when the technology is evolving towards autonomous and electrical and so on?
Yeah. I think in that case, it will be affect quite a lot for the driver end, because in that case, we don't need any driver. So from operator point of view, to be honest, that's save quite a lot of energy, because the driver is always that team, the group of people we are like a partner. So at the moment, we're working quite a lot. And also, like David said, 70% of this cost is from a driver, right? It's so true. So that will be changing quite a lot. But from customer perspective, I think, the trust between the operator and then the customer, that's the key. So the vehicle itself is driverless. So it's trust and safety, that's the main key. And also other functionality need to build in the car in advance. So that is requires really about advanced technology. But because basically, driverless vehicle, so doesn't matter if people or good transportation use driverless car. So basically that car need to understand about, customer needs clearly. Yeah. But main thing, I think in the future, we also need to consider the personalized. From our perspective, we have the customer picture, right? So we know who are they, and then, each individual as well. So of course that's a data protection, but in order to provide best service, so we should set up ideally. So we need to set up to say, we know this customer A to get in use that service in certain time. So we provide that feature to them. So we see that, previously, so we have to plan everything right before they do that. And also, when this customer get in the car, so we know what is performance of this customer, what smell he like, right? What sort of temperature he like, what seat position he like. So that will be, a good point from the car manufacturing, right, and the R&D point of view. So we should consider that. So it's really, so they feel really comfortable for that journey. So they don't need their vehicle because, when I get in the vehicle, I know the vehicle read my mind and read what I need. That is my habit. So they didn't do anything, right?
And I guess that has to do with the connectivity part of it, connecting the car and the user. But can the car compete with the devices we have? I mean, cell phone, in-ear, noise cancelling, all these things. Can the car compete with it, or should it? I mean, what's your David? What's your thinking of that? Like all the tech we bring in and we have.
Yeah, this is a dangerous topic for some of the audience. I think the probable answer is no. I think.
And why?
Well, let's see where we're going to be. I mean, we're all going to guess, aren't we? But I think this is really fun. Our industry has been described recently as the dinosaurs staring up at the comet, wondering what happens next. Right?
Yeah.
We should be very, very careful, particularly here in Gothenburg, in CEVT, not to look at ourselves in the mirror and judge all customers by that. I mean, the picture you showed at the beginning of a big city. I used to live in London. I would never use my car, but I had to have one for those odd occasions that I needed it. I wouldn't use it because you can't go anywhere during the day in a car. You can't drive to your office. I mean, it's hard enough to go to the shops in a car. It just doesn't happen. You only need it for those escapes. Yeah. And imagine that I'm paying for a car roughly on average €500 a month, sorry, for that car, and not using it. It's crazy. If someone put an autonomous service on the road that was as good as Uber, but as 70% cheaper to pick up on Avril's number, who wouldn't swap to that instead of having a car park somewhere up the road? Yeah. Now, in that case, then those services are competing for the consumer. It's not the device consumer, but I think then we're never going to keep up with consumer electronics in that case, and people will bring in their iPads and iPhones and the like into the car. So I think the challenge would be to how to make that vehicle interact with those devices in the best possible way and make it seamless. As I think we've discussed before in a couple of forums, if you walk in, can you see your location in the car? Can you control the car? Can you control the climate with your own device? I think that's the way that we probably should be looking.
Fish, do you agree? You're like interacting in somewhat in the car as today.
Yeah, so I think I definitely agree with David. I think that the interaction, and you can see it today with CarPlay and Android Auto, where you come with the mobile device and the local device on infotainment system is the one that's actually kind of mirroring the device. I think there are going to be interesting things that you can do with the car that again are related to the experience. For example, do I want the scenic drive? Do I want to go fast? Do I want to go beyond the speed limit? There's going to be interesting things that you can do that are beyond just the mobile device, and I think that's part of the challenge of the car. But it could be, it's like an airline. I have my preferred airline. I have, what I'm accustomed to, whether it is, starting from the infotainment system to the seats to the food options, etc. And I think that, Waze as an application, one of the reasons that we went to carpool was that, we see that shift of drivers to riders, and one of the things is convincing drivers like myself to be actually riders. So this is, I think, an important part of the journey of autonomous cars, whereas you're no longer the driver, you might not own the car, and you trust the system, you trust the service, and you become a rider, which is, again, a different state of mind. But still, for example, yeah, controlling the car, maybe, again, I prefer route A or route B. I will see 3 different routes. I will decide them. So there are things that are related to, you know, the actual journey itself, and making it something that's more personalized.
Personalization, yeah. I was thinking like customization, and people like having fun, and as someone, David, you said this is the dinosaurs. Can we, I mean, Tesla is having one feature that if you're turning, it sounds like a fart, and that's like revolution in our world. And it's not a big thing, honestly. How can we be more, or do the user want to be more, I mean, expecting more from a boring car? I mean, like Waze, you're having the Batmobile option today, just for fun. Is that a room for like opening the interactivity with the car, so that you can create something and customize your ride? Maybe as personalization, you want to brand yourself, you want to show to the rest, this is me and my ride, my options and my personal settings. What do you think? Is that like, or do you just expect a car to be a car taking you from A to B, and then you bring your own device, as David says?
I just thinking out loud, maybe about London. So, for example, if I was driving in the car and I'm, you know, not working at the same time, which is, I think, part of what will happen, is that you'll kind of be extending your workplace. For example, if I hear about, you know, what's happening in London automatically based on where I'm routing, information, options, it could be interesting. It I think depends a bit on the state of mind. Sometimes you're rushed and all you're interested is to get to the destination in the shortest or the fastest manner possible. Sometimes you have time. Sometimes you're leisurely driving or going on a vacation. It depends on the state of mind. Part of the profile of commuters versus errands versus, you know, long hauls, etc. This is I think part of the stuff that, you know, when you recognize, when you profile, or even, you know, I just, you know, kind of provide that information to the car, I can get a different experience which will exactly fit my mood and my expectations. And then it's, again, it could be a pleasant surprise. I'm not sure that I will drive in I'll say, okay, you know, make it a Batmobile, but maybe perhaps, you know, I want to drive in a Batmobile in London. That could be an interesting experience.
I tend to think we should be careful with this. We should be very careful. We should not rush to make a better fart noise than Tesla. Yeah, that's not the point of this. I think you have to build from bottom up. We have to aim to give the best quality products and the best quality services, and get that baseline absolutely solid. And then we can look for our own delighters and our own PR stunts. Some of it's about creating noise and bringing people in. I'll challenge anybody to say that we don't already make a better car than a Tesla, even if it's not full electric. So we shouldn't then look to funny noises to go further. But yeah, on the other hand, I think all of us love that little bit of sense of fun and humor, and the little delighters are always important. And if we find them, we should use them.
Definitely. Avril, what's your view on mobility as a service in the future, when we're going into like do you see any change in customer wants? You have sustainability as a cornerstone in CaoCao. What do you see more like this is what tendencies or what trends do you see that the user is evaluating?
Yeah, I think as a user, I think the trend, which is also environmental. So that's why we are focused on at the moment. We start about 5 years ago in China, One CaoCao China established 2015. So I think now, really at the beginning, people think, wow, environmental, that's something we need to care, but is that really matter to us? But now, 5 years later, it's more and more appeared that really matter to us. And now you can see all of them, legislation and local governments, and that's law also, it's just to come out, we say everybody might know nowadays, so 2030 with no diesel or petrol car. So apparently, so everybody doing their bit of work to protect the environment, because that's the whole planet we live in. So everybody contribute. So as user, so I would say more and more people have the perception, which is to do from ourselves, from me. So how do that? So as mobility service, we need to concentrate. I say, okay, environmental, that is one of the big parts for the transport, right? Public transport, how you can do that, and then like personal vehicle, right? Drive, how you can focus on, and mobility service as well, how we can integrate everything. Yeah. So I think that is one trend, and utilize the technology, right, to apply to our daily life. So that's a factor quite a lot. So also, what we know, I think, the data to showing really is 2050, the needs of the travel, will be doubled like today. So that, how can we reach that? How we can cope with the customer, and how we can cope with the world? So that is really a question we need to think about now, and we can plan for the head, right? So, and the mobility services, that is one of the things that changing people's lives. That is really a key, I think, environmental, that's the sort of things we need working on. Not only working with, for the car OEM, and also government, and also everybody's, the habit and the social media, everything. I think that is everybody play their parts, yeah. And it's the important thing, which is we believe that's the right thing we are doing now, and I have passion to do it. So I believe the passion that's changed quite a lot of things as well. I think next year, which is 2021, which in November, which is like global climate change meeting, will be carried on in Glasgow. So that will be carried on for the last meeting, which is 2015 in Paris. So I think that will be changed quite a lot as well. So I'm looking forward to see what is, each government, how they play their role and how we can implement that. So I know that is a big sector, but I think we are all working for the transportation that area. So I think that is the trend I would like to see in the future, and also utilize our technology to change people's life, but in a good way.
And that technology, the connectivity is part. And I got a question here in the chat. The future is all about connectivity. Can you elaborate how it fits with the GDPR? And I guess it's like what the do's and don'ts in the connectivity and data management, I guess. I mean, everyone talks about connectivity. I guess to find the value of connectivity is more interesting, and to utilize the technology in the best way, and not just say this is the best connectivity of them all. What should we use the connectivity for, and how does that cope with the GDPR?
I think there's a second question. I'll put two of them together if I can, because I think they fit nicely. So Peter Stavard also asked about continuous development and the connection between end users and UX development. So here we go. If you think about it, GDPR is a good thing. It's a gold standard. It makes us, companies involved in it, conform to what we should be doing anyway, which is protecting people's data and only using it in ways that they approve of. Yeah. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. We should be doing it without the regulation. It's good to have the regulation to help us know where what the minimum standard is. Yeah. And then that data can be used in one of two ways. I can share my data to get direct feedback for me, personalization for me, and then that is data about me. And this is a more difficult argument, but we could also aggregate data about all of the users without having any personal data necessarily in there, but just usage. And we should really be doing that, I mean, I feel. And then let's take the car as a whole. There's now, what, 4 gig of data an hour or something crazy traveling up and down our vehicles. And what's contained in that is information. And what our feature growth and development is could be supremely enhanced by that. How many times do people open the sunroof? What is the most common air conditioning setting? Do people listen to jazz on the motorway and classical music in the countryside? With that information, then we can do continuous development, understanding consumers' needs. But again, as long as we treat that information with due proprietary.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think I just to add, at the end of the day, GDPR is about user consent, user control of the data, ability, to delete it, to modify it. So it's basic principles. And the moment you have user consent and the user is aware and understand what he's opting or what he's providing and whether he is sharing or not. And for example, if it's all on his mobile device and he decides if he connects the mobile device to the car or not, then at the end of the day, you are compliant. And so I think that, all the developments take into consideration GDPR and other aspects of privacy and user control and consent. So it's not that, different than any other thing.
Good. We have one question here from Michael Ronon. Will mobility as a service in city-urban environment replace vehicle brand, vehicle performance, and vehicle design as decision points with simplicity to order the ride, availability of transport solution, personal safety regardless of brand, performance, and design of the vehicle itself? Did you follow?
I do, and I love this question. This is really good. We've discussed it a lot in various different forums. I think the conclusion is not entirely, but in the main. This is a dangerous little bit of territory. I think what happens is the service becomes key, the experience, right? And then which is the brand that wins? When you were last in a taxi, and maybe this is the wrong question for car people because we sort of know, don't we? But your parents, maybe, if they get in a taxi, do they even bother to check what the brand of the taxi is? And if you're going to be like that, let's all try the bus. What brand was your last bus? You just don't know. But what you are interested in, what the experience was and what the service was like and what the comfort and ride and all of this, and that is important. So it's not nothing, but it's not necessarily about the brand of the device as much as it is the brand of the experience.
I think it might be very similar to planes. I mean, it's either Airbus or Boeing. Again, I don't know, 90 whatever %. And so at the end of the day, when you take whether it is United or Delta or Lufthansa, etc., it's everything around it, but not the actual plane. Maybe again the specific seat or something like that. But I'm not sure if it's going to be that there are going to be 2 car or 3 car manufacturers and everybody would provide service on them. It's an interesting question, but it's it's the same vehicle at the end, the same kind of liftoff and arrival.
I like your point. Is it a question of, is it 2 or 3, Boeing and Airbus, or is it more? But if it's more, is it as many as today? And therefore, how many is it? And how do those people compete?
I think that is one thing, the brand compliant to the vehicle perspective, I would say, yes, not much difference, right? I agree with you too. But when you're talking about what is, which company provides the service, that is a different brand. Whether it's BA or Air France, that's a difference, right? Whether it's CaoCao or Uber, that makes a lot of difference. So, yeah. So that is areas for the company who provide this service. So what sort of images they provide to the user, and then, what is the competitive advantage? So that is key. Of course, that's customer focus, and also the customer experience will be different with 2 different brands or multiple different brands. And then, you can find your own loyalty customer.
Good. So we have only 4 minutes left, and we got a question from the female-male aspect. What about the female users? How's same or different man and woman users are from your perspective? I guess it's like expectations from male and female, if I interpret it right.
Yeah, I can answer that first, because we are really experiencing quite a lot about female rider, so they feel much more safer to use transport services, because our vehicle provide the divider, which is purpose built for the the TX version, which is they have divider between the driver components and then the passenger area. So that is also part of the experience for the female. So they feel safe in that environment. So they feel the driver is in their working environment. Customer, so they are, enjoy the ride themselves. They can completely relax in their area, because that is, that is really their own space, right, during the ride, and also that is also, kind of privacy. So they feel completely safe. I think safety, that's key as well. Right. So in terms of agenda, I think.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Avril. And there was some from they didn't really a follow-up question on the previous question about the mobility as a service. With the response from the panel, will not the brand of the fleet operator be more important than the vehicle brand?
Absolutely. I think that's what I was trying to say. I think Avril said it as well. It's Lufthansa, BA, SAS. It's not Boeing and Airbus that is in the front of most people's minds. There will be a few of us left. As someone said to me the other day, I didn't really know that there were different brands of aeroplanes until the 737 MAX, and I started taking an interest. Yeah. So there will be some people who look, but otherwise it's the brand of the service. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Okay. Sums up this good panel discussion. We have only 1 minute left, and I would sincerely like to thank you, Avril, Fej, and David, for being part of this panel. And I hope to see you very soon again, and in the best of worlds, in real life. Let's see when that happens. But until then, take care, and thank you very, very much for being part of this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to join here, and then hopefully we keep in touch. Right?
Yes, of course.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.